What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of the show, Nick. And the Rams are hosting the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. Colts are 3-0, Rams are 2-1. It is certainly nice for the Rams to be back home. But before we jump into the preview of this episode and all the crazy shit that's flying around about the Indianapolis Colts, first and most importantly, how are you, my good brother?
I'm good. Lick's picks went 5-0, so I'm rich. So things are good. That Monday night bet on the Lions hit. So we're doing good over here. I'm worried about this game, but I'm excited to talk about the Colts right now.
It's going to be very interesting. The Rams are currently minus 3.5. So Vegas thinks they're a 3.5-point favorite at home. And just in doing some recent research, you and I were talking about this the other day, Vegas no longer awards 3 full points to the home team. It's closer to like 2 or 2.5. So, it's a significant spread considering the fact that the Colts are scorching hot. If you want the Colts on the money line, it's plus 160. If you want the Rams on the money line, it's minus 192. 68% of the money so far has been placed on the Rams, and 32% of the money so far has been placed on the Colts. Nick, the Rams brothers betting expert, I want your take on this game.
When we first looked at the line, it was Rams minus 4.5, and now it's moved an entire point to Rams minus 3.5. I think they're trying to get people to put more money on the Rams. Otherwise, it would go the other way. To me, this feels like the biggest challenge the Colts have faced so far. It's not the biggest challenge that we faced so far. That was last week, and we came up short. And the Colts really, if you watch their games, especially the one against Denver, feels like they could be 2-1, and that's more appropriate to where they are. But everybody's picking the Rams this week, it feels like. So that definitely has me a little shaky, and the money's kind of all over the place. So when the money's everywhere, anything can happen. So
yeah, I mean, so a 41-20 victory over the Titans. That game was in Tennessee, so that was week 3. Week 2, they beat the Broncos by 1 point. Late comeback there. And then also they just obliterated the Dolphins in week 1. So it's been an interesting ride so far for the Colts. But the Rams and the Colts' history has been, since Sean McVay has taken over as head coach, has been in favor of the Rams. So we remember back to the October 1st game in 23, Puka's rookie season. He walks them off in overtime. 2021, the Rams beat Carson Wentz by only 3 points in week 2 of that season, right after they beat the Chicago Bears to advance to 2-0. And this was the first time that the Rams were 2-0 since that season. And then 9, 10, 17, which is actually my anniversary, the Rams beat the Colts 46-9. And Nick, we were there in the building. It was Sean McVay's first game. So there's some good revisionist history. There's some good mojo, I think, coming in to this week. I think them kind of correcting themselves and understanding, not only from an offense and defense perspective, but here's a couple of tweaks we can make on special teams. These are going to be moments when we can implement them. And this is why we're still the team that I think everybody still has to reckon with.
Yeah. And it's funny. Both of us they're 3-0. We're 2-1. We probably should beat the Eagles like how they beat the Broncos. They got called on that. The Broncos got called on that leverage, which allowed the Colts to move up and win the game off of that field goal. And if they would have called that on the Eagles, probably we would both be sitting here 3-0. But they're 3-0 against two teams, just like us, against two teams that are 0-3. So it's a little. I think both of us are a little bit of a deceiving high record versus where we actually are, because we haven't played anybody that's that great. And besides the Eagles and the Broncos, and both of those games were dangerously close. So this is going to be a real matchup against two teams that have very high aspirations for the future. And somebody's going to walk out a winner, and somebody's going to walk out like, damn, like that one was a real gut punch. So I hope it's us, because 2-2 going against the potentially 4-0 San Francisco Niners in our division, that's a little scary.
We were talking about this, you and I, yesterday, where we were like, we're looking back at the schedule. We were looking back at our predictions. We're like, the Titans, they're 0-3. All right, well, we beat them. The Texans, How are they 0-3? Like they have to at least be 1-2. They're 0-3. And then I'm looking at these insane stats, and you guys are just gonna see 5 or 6 just rattled off that you almost can't comprehend, especially considering it's the Indianapolis Colts and their history over the past 4 or 5 years. So Spencer Schrader, their kicker, has 43 total points this season. The Houston Texans and CJ Stroud in totality have put up 38 total points. So that's how much production they're getting from special teams alone. How about Daniel Jones? It's been 5 minutes so far into this episode, and we haven't yet talked about Indiana Jones, Vanilla Vic, or Daniel Dimes. 111.7 passer rating. It's third right now in the NFL. Daniel Jones is the only player in Super Bowl history or the Super Bowl era with 3+ passing touchdowns, 3+ rushing touchdowns, and 0 turnovers through the first 3 games of the season. If that isn't a WTF stat, I don't know what the hell is. Then you look at this team holistically, offense and defense. Their offense is second in points per game. They're second in yards per game, and their defense is 7th in points per game and 9th in yards per game. And also, how about this one? They have the offensive player of the year favorite right now in their backfield. It's Jonathan Taylor plus 450. Jonathan Taylor currently has more rushing yards than 17 other teams around the NFL right now. So right now you're looking at the offensive player of the year square off Jonathan Taylor versus Puka Nacua this weekend. So just based on how crazy of a start this is for the Indianapolis Colts, do you think Vegas is thinking to themselves like, this Rams team has proved that they're a good football team. Doesn't matter that they played lesser competition. They're hosting. They haven't been home in a couple of weeks, coming off of an emotional loss. Like, that's what I'm really trying to figure out, because if you're just looking at the numbers and you're watching the way that the games have flowed, that spread might be a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would be closer to like Rams -1.5 if I were to make this line on my own, just because I feel like it's going to be really, really close. But this is one of the Rams opponents that is not on that upper echelon of like Eagles, Packers, Niners, where this crowd is going to be like very much Rams favored. I think we could even see like 90-10 of Rams fan versus Colts fans at this game. So I think that actually has a lot to do with it as well. The Rams also playing 2 away games before this and being comfortable at home. That has a lot to do with it as well. I think that's what they're factoring in. Anybody that had Jonathan Taylor like me on their fantasy team last year knew how much havoc he could wreak on a really good team. So it's not surprising to see him being fantastic. What is surprising is the Daniel Jones of it all, the Indiana Jones. It just feels like he spent a little bit of time as a backup in Minnesota, which being in Minnesota under Kevin O'Connell seems to be like the secret recipe for these quarterbacks to have this like second coming. You have Darnold, Wentz. I feel like I'm missing somebody. And now Indiana Jones. So it's just like it's just so sad to be a Giants fan, because you're watching Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley just tear the league apart. And they're like, we're 0-3 somehow. How is this possible?
Yeah, and it poses the question, are the Giants so bad that it affects the Los Angeles Rams? And if you look back to last year, Saquon Barkley, what did he have, 550 yards on the ground against the Rams in 2 games? Yeah. Daniel Jones right now is on a mission to make sure that the Rams stay at 500 in their home stadium in week 4. I just want people to remember one thing. Like Shane Steichen, you go back to Shane Steichen, Frank Reich, the Philadelphia Eagles, 2017, 2018, the transition between Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, which is the original reason why Carson Wentz was in Indianapolis, because Shane Steichen had the relationship from Philly with Carson Wentz. They run that RPO-heavy offense. I'd like to get their quarterback on the move. They've won in a couple of different ways. Shane Steichen and Frank Reich within that Philadelphia Eagles offense and their ecosystem were heavy on the RPO stuff, but they also transitioned away from it so that they could play competent football with Nick Foles under center. So there's a lot of versatility, but you need a guy that can run, that could extend plays, that is a threat to take off within that RPO offense. And that's what Daniel Jones and the Colts have done really well. There's a multitude of threats, and there's enough offensive weapons, and there's enough offensive personnel up front to be able to protect him, which is really a shock. But, they've had 4 or 5 years to put it together.
Yeah, and he's somebody that if you give him a good run game, he has that threat of picking up a couple first downs with his legs on his own. So you have to respect him. You got to put a lot of respect into Jonathan Taylor. And then, if you don't get them off the field and you get on the field and you go 3-and-out, all of a sudden it's like 10-0 no matter what. It's like they're putting up points. They're getting at least close enough for their kicker to drill one in or score the opening touchdown. So you got to be really, and the Rams are definitely seeing this and coming off such an emotional loss last week. They're going to be coming out hot as well, I'd imagine. And the only thing that really worries me, and I feel like this has been the concern about the Rams for this entire season, if you go back to the offseason, what everybody was talking about, it's Stafford. It's can he continue to make the easy throws that he's known for? Can he make the high-level throws that he's known for? Can he do the sidearm throws that he was doing week 1 and 2 and then missing the layups in week 3? If Stafford is not right and it looks like he's missing those layups and he throws a pick six or like a pick early in the game, then I think you got to throw everything out and be like, okay, we got to beat these guys, and like defense really has to step up there.
Yeah, an uglier type game, kind of similar to how you won the first week of the season. Right. No, but it's a valid concern. So Nate Atkins is the new beat writer for the Rams via The Athletic, who replaced Jordan Rodriguez. He had a really good write-up just on the overall usage and targets that receivers are getting within the Rams' offense through the first 3 games of the season. So right now it's at 79%. It's trending to be the highest rate for a quarterback in 25 years. And that's via it's True Media Sports. So essentially what they're doing is they're over-targeting their receivers. You got to get your running backs more involved as pass catchers. You got to get your second-round tight end on the field and, figure out ways to get everybody involved. And this is one of the quotes that we pulled out of Nate Atkins' article via The Athletic, just because I thought it was so interesting related to the scheme that the Rams are running. So he says, Stafford is running much of the scheme his team has set up for him, which is built on his tendencies as well as his new reality as a 37-year-old with a degenerative back issue to protect. That's why we're seeing an uptick in 2 tight end sets and play action, which demands tight ends to block. Side note of what Nate is saying here, I also think they need to have 2 tight ends on the field to be able to just in regular pass pro sets, because their offensive line just isn't capable of holding up throughout the long term of the game. He also says, until second-round rookie Terrence Ferguson is on the field, and I sense that is about blocking readiness and mastery of the playbook, which is a huge challenge for rookies, I wouldn't expect a high target share to go to tight end's way now that Higbee is 32 with some injuries that have taken a toll. So take that for what you will. I just think in the next couple of weeks, as you're trying to work through a couple of different defenses, first the Colts and then the Niners in back-to-back weeks, you're going to see some changes. You're going to see 11 personnel. You're going to see 12 personnel. You're going to see a lot of different formations, different ways to get different pass catchers involved. They're not going to stay stagnant. If they're struggling, what Nate is saying here is there's plenty of opportunity to make changes. And if it stays on this trajectory, Nick, to your original point, the dominoes are going to fall.
Yeah, it doesn't add up that last year it felt like towards the end of the season, they were like really utilizing the tight ends. I mean, in that Eagles game, I think the 2 passing touchdowns that Stafford had were both to tight ends. So it like you were kind of waiting for that to kind of make, show itself this season. But I guess, Nate lays it out right there that they don't feel comfortable with the blocking that these tight ends are giving them. And with Ferguson, you hope to see him there. Like, sooner than later, like get him his first, touchdown and get him like in the rhythm, but we're just not seeing it. And, I'm kind of hoping that as they get, to less inferior defenses, like down the line, they'll start showing them out. But this would be a really good test right here because you're playing against one of the top caliber defenses right now.
You're playing against a really good defense, right? You look at the front, DeForest Buckner, everybody's familiar with, Grover Stewart, Liatu Latu, who came out of the draft last year, who a lot of people wanted over Jared Verse, but both playing really good football. Their linebackers are a little bit weak, but then you look at their corners and you got some familiar names. Chartavius Ward, Xavier Howard is here on a 1-year deal, I believe. Kenny Moore, who I don't think is going to be able to go this week, but still there's enough talent in that secondary and up front. I would say if anything, they're built similarly to the way that we're structured with, decent talent in the secondary, some well-known names. Most of their talent lives within their front 7. And you look offensively, like we talked about some of their weapons, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, rookie tight end. Their offensive line is really talented and is playing good football in the first 3 weeks. So that's going to be a test for sure. And I think like if you're going to involve your tight ends in any type of game, it would be one like this, right? One where like the linebacker play is a little bit inferior. You can get guys in space. You can get some of those quick pass plays, especially if the front's playing really well and your offensive line's still a little bit banged up. We'll see. I like the quick passing game because it gets running backs and tight ends in rhythm with the quarterback.
Well, it's crazy. If you would have told me that we were to stop the run on the Eagles and that we would have a really good run game, I would think, all right, yeah, no, we totally win that game. And then, the kind of fumble it towards the end. But I think establishing the run, if you can do that against this defense, with all their, bibs and bobs and all their pieces that are like looking fantastic against the run, if you can kind of get that going with Corum and Kyron, then I feel like they're going to start opening up to, passing to the tight ends and getting a little gadgety potentially and doing some dinks and dunks. But I'm not sitting here being like, oh yeah, this is going to be a lights out show. Like the Rams and the Colts are just going to be going back and forth, like punch after punch with all of these touchdowns. I feel like both of us have really solid defenses, and it's going to be, which quarterback can kind of like maneuver around in the pocket enough to stand upright and make some throws, because I feel like both of them are going to be probably pressured up the wazoo, especially if our offensive line is not looking as good as, just the injuries keep piling up, which it feels like they are.
Yeah, it is starting to. You saw Rob Havenstein, I think, was held out of practice yesterday. I'm waiting to see the injury report for today. I was hoping to have it before this episode. So he was held out of practice with an ankle, so it's separate of his offseason shoulder injury. Devontae Adams was held out with a hamstring. He didn't practice yesterday either. I would assume that these guys are going to be limited participants and play on Sunday, but you don't like to see the veterans get banged up. Justin Dedich has a chest injury. Colby Parkinson's still dealing with that AC joint in his shoulder. Braden Fisk is dealing with the oblique, and Cam Kinchins with his shoulder as well. So they got a couple of veterans on their injury report as well, based on participants on Wednesday. This game, I'm thinking to myself, like, I feel in my heart of hearts that the Rams are going to win the game outright. But, it just doesn't feel like one of those games where either team is capable of pulling away. Like, I think that, the run games are going to be probably pretty even. The passing attacks, obviously we have the more talented passer, but they've been successful through the air with their explosives so far this season. I think it's going to be the defense. Like, I think of this Indianapolis Colts team like I think about the Minnesota Vikings last year. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this rejuvenated quarterback and this new system. Everybody kind of starts to root for them. They win a ton of games. They win the division. But then a team that is smarter, that has more talent up front, that has a better coach, exposes the inferior quarterback. And to me, that's always where my head is at in these type of games. I look at Danny Dimes just like I look at Sam Darnold.
No, I mean, personally, I think I would actually take Jones over Darnold, and I know that's probably a crazy take, but that's just
where I stand. Would you have said that last year?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Jones has just had a really bad rub, and I thought the one season where they gave him the tools when they played a powerhouse Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl and they got blown up in the playoffs, but they were able to take down Kirk Cousins and the Vikings in Minnesota. I feel like he just has never had really like the entire thing really made for him like he does here. So it's same thing happened to Darnold, but I would take Jones. There is a world to me, and the Rams never do this. They just don't play this way. But there is a world, I think, where they just play completely pissed off from last week. And people are like, oh, the Colts, like, and then the Rams just like push away with this game. And it's like, all of a sudden it's like, 24 to like 3. And people are like, all right, Colts are coming down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because I think they really thought they were walking away from that. They did everything that they were supposed to do besides, special teams has 2 huge mess ups and we lose that game. But, if that doesn't happen, or if a leverage call is called on one of either of those 2 times, we're 3-0 and we're feeling okay. So I think they think that they're one of the top echelon teams. I think the Colts are probably still a little feeling like they're a little more scrappy than like we can play with like the Ravens and the Bills and those teams. But as far as the NFC goes, I still really like our chances just overall. So
yeah, I'm sure
I agree. Heart of hearts, I think the Rams win this game, and you don't hear me say that often.
No, and I think other analysts are kind of starting to feel the same way, where it's like, okay, there's eventually going to be a week where the Indianapolis Colts come back from football heaven and come back down to earth.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a team that knocks them back. For it to be a well-coached NFC team who just went head-to-head and were in control of the entirety of the football game until the last seconds against the Super Bowl champions in their stadium, like that, I think Vegas is thinking like, come on, somebody's going to knock them down, and it might be the Rams.
Yeah. And look, the Eagles have a test this weekend, even though like a lot of people are banged up in Tampa. Like that's a tough game. They always play them well. So maybe they get knocked down this peg and Colts get knocked down a peg. Maybe the Jags even beat the Niners. I mean, that's like all three of those things happen. I'm feeling like, like last week barely even happened. If like all three of those things happen and then we're both 3-1 playing the Niners next week, I'm like, oh yeah, like we're back, baby.
For sure.
This is like John Goodman dinosaur.
And tonight's going to be fun too, because tonight is Seattle and Arizona.
And Arizona is in those really cool
desert
sand jerseys.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game too. So we got a fun weekend ahead of us. I like the fact that we're favorited. I think that if the spread is appropriately set. I think this team is starving and as pissed off as they've been since they lost in the divisional round. So it's time to knock this team off of their
the right team is favored. And I think this is usually the point of the season where the Rams have found their groove, honestly, because they don't play preseason and because Stafford's old, it takes them time to figure it out. And I feel like by week 4, maybe week 5, some years, that's when we really know who they are. And, they're a second half team 100%. But I think now if they can really get the gears turning and just like look like the team that we all know they are and go up early on them, maybe get the ball first and just score and the defense stops them, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Rams are up 14-0. Rams are up 10-0. I think it could totally happen both ways. Even if we go down 10-0, I'm still going to feel okay. But if we come out early and score early like we did last week minus the pick, all of a sudden we're playing with house money and the Rams are covering.
Right. And you can't, like, if you let them go up, they're going to control the clock with Jonathan Taylor, right? So you want to play with the lead. You want to control the clock with Kyren Williams and Blake Corum as much as you can and play turnover-free football, play clean football, operations on special teams clean, and you're going to win the game, and you're going to be home. And there's no East Coast plane ride to have to deal with. You just settle in at home, 3-1, and get ready for a short week against the Niners.
We also may see them say F special teams and go for it more on 4th down based on what happened last week. That could totally happen.
Wouldn't be surprised at all. Wouldn't be surprised. I think, Nick, it's been a fun week. But to cap it off, I think that it's time for everybody's favorite part of the week.
Let's do it. Nick's picks. Wowzer. Nick's picks last week, the rare 5 out of 5 wins. What did I tell you? Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again. That wasn't me. That was Scar the Lion from Lion King. But still, the same point stands. We kicked ass. A parlay of $10 on Nick's picks last week would have paid $360. Goes to show you that I actually know what I'm talking about and some vindication for all those hashtag Nickheads out there. Unfortunately, Dean, on the other hand, he went 0-1 with his locks. That happens. He's still 2-1 on the season, just like the Rams. Dean, before we get started and we release the theme song, why don't you give us a lock of the week?
Yeah, that sounds good. It looks like the producer's trying to add in another funny little banner here so everyone could laugh while Dean makes his lock of the week. All right, let's see. What do we got? Lock of the week. I got a special one for you guys. So Puka doesn't have any receiving touchdowns yet. He only has a rushing touchdown. But he's got to get in the end zone as a receiver. My lock of the week is Puka Nacua, anytime touchdown.
I love that because his first touchdown ever as a professional football player was an overtime against the Colts.
Maybe that could be another reason why I did
it. All right. We got a quick theme song, everybody. So let's run that, and then we'll jump into hopefully another 5-0 week.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Producer, cue it up.
This is our Rams. This is our team.
We bleed blue for the Rams. Beat the Colts. Let's show them our better theme song. This is our Rams. Go Rams. Ram. This is our Rams. I am so mad that I did not write down that creator's name. He makes a Colts theme song every week. Lights out. He's the fan of the year, in my opinion. So shout out to him. It's the same song every week, though. It follows the same rhythm. So I do a Rams spoof for him.
I think we've all seen that video of the guy singing the Colts song. Yeah, I forget his name too, but I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, I had to. If there was ever a week to do it, it's when you play the Colts. All right. Here we go. Let's get it started. Vikings versus the Steelers at Dublin, Ireland. Line is set at Vikings minus 2.5. It's the first 6:30 a.m. PST game happening this weekend. My favorite kind of games. You get to wake up before the neighborhood is even awake, make yourself a cup of hot Jones, and watch some American Werewolf in Europe. Footballs of London. Do we go back into the Carson Wentz well after winning so easily last week? Well, that game was very much won by the Vikings defense. Wentz threw for 2 touchdowns, 173 passing yards, and a 70% completion rate, ended with a QBR of 3.4. It wasn't magical, but he got the job done. On the other side, Rodgers looks so stinking old that he only has 2 moves left in his arsenal. That little back pedal move that he does and the Hail Mary. And of course, dinking and dunking. But he still, he can still make the layups. I just don't think the Steelers are going to seriously be competing in these games with these better teams. They barely beat the Patriots last week, who looked terrible. They had 4 turnovers in that game. I think everybody's going to want to zag against the Vikings because they look so well. But I love the spot for them. They won last year against Rodgers in a Europe game. They're bringing their hot defense to the table, and I think they get the dub in Ireland. I think they cover no problem. 27-14 Vikings. I like Vikings minus 2.5. I think they cover.
Okay. I like that one too. And the fact that it's going to be an international game, Rodgers having to travel internationally, Carson Wentz is hungry like the wolf. Yeah. All right, cool. I like it. What's next?
Hungry. Panthers at Patriots. Line is set. Patriots minus 5.5. I'm already done with the Vrabel Pats. Drake May looks scared. They've had every chance to win last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they squandered it. They're going for it on 4th and 3s in their own territory. I know everybody fell in love with Vrabel's Titans because they beat the Pats that one time in the playoffs, and they were the 1 seed that one year. But they had prime Derrick Henry, and they never made it to an AFC Championship game. Panthers, on the other hand, 30-point blowout against a divisional rival. Now they have a chance to be 500 against a really lackluster Patriots team. Panthers kind of found a groove 2 weeks ago in the second half of that Cardinals game, and they're looking solid since. I want to like Bryce. Everybody does. I think we're going to have more of a reason to see why they trust him with this offense going forward after they play a bad Patriots defense. And I think both defenses are going to be lit up. So we're going to take over 43 in this game, 31-29. I think the Panthers went outright, but we're going to take Panthers plus 5.5 and the over 43.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you like Panthers outright. Are you taking the spread or are you taking them to win outright?
Taking the spread. We're going to take the plus 5.5, even though I maybe sprinkle a little bit on money line just for
That's
fun.
a crazy spread. I mean, that's a home run bet. If you guys are listening and you just want to place one bet instead of the full parlay, that would be the one that I would place.
I feel exactly the same way. I just don't know how they're favored that much. I think Bryce has more experience than May, and they looked so bad last week. All right, moving on. Raiders at Bears. Line is currently set at Bears minus 1. I am really not happy about this pick, but I'm going to have to take the Raiders here. I just can't see the Bears of all teams who went absolutely ballistic in week 3, then them not coming down to earth at an away game in Vegas. I love Caleb. I want him to succeed. It's good for USC. It's good for the culture. It's good for Fight On. And it's good for the NFL when the Bears are relevant. But I am just not playing that Bears minus 1. I sometimes you just have to play with the sharps, swim with the sharks. And I think everybody's going to be on the Bears because they look so good. And it's they find Ben Johnson figured it out. They know what to do. I'm just not going to put the Raiders away that fast in this box of a terrible team. And I just think this line is begging for you to take the Bears. And the same thing was what happened last week where the Cowboys were -1 against the Bears. And it was like, oh, yeah, Cowboys, Bears, smelly team. Blah, blah. And then the Bears blew them out. I think that's very, very real possibility here. I don't love this bet, but this is a sharp bet. So we're just going to play with the sharps. Give me Raiders +1.
Okay, cool. I like that too. It's like a Ben Johnson rivalry, right? Because I felt like he was almost dead set on going to Las Vegas, and then he decided the last second I'm going to go to the Bears. And then the Raiders said, "Oh, we're going to bring in Tom Brady. Let's get Pete Carroll." That's going to be a really interesting game. It'll probably be better than I think people expect it to be.
Yeah, 21-20, I think, is my final score. Raiders win, but we're on +1, so we're fine with that.
Cool. I like it. You got another one? Quick pick?
We're just going to run it back with some extra thick straps. Vikings -2, Panthers +5.5, over 43 in Panthers Pats, Raiders +1, and then my quick pick. These are like the smelliest games of the week. It's usually what I pick, but we're just going to do it. Dolphins money line to win over the Jets. I don't think they're done yet. I think they could be 2-1 right now if they locked in, and they didn't. Current record right now on Nick's picks after 3 weeks, 10-5. We're up 5 units. That's feeling pretty good. So play with caution this week. After you win a lot, usually the gambling gods kind of bring you back to earth. So play with caution. But I like all of those a lot outside of the Raiders one, but I like them all a lot. So we're gonna lock in. Make sure you like and subscribe, and thank you guys for listening this far.
Yeah, that sounds good. What are Dean's locks? 2-1?
2-1. Yeah, Nick's picks 10-5.
Yeah, I mean, hey, gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you have any issues, but have fun with it. Nick's picks are on a roll. Ride the roller coaster and make some money.
Yes.
Cheers.
Yes.
As always, go Rams. Make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you again soon.
Yeah, we'll see you Monday. No matter what, we'll be here.
Go Rams. Peace. Talk soon.